When it was announced that The Killing Joke was getting an adaptation with Mark Hamill, Tara Strong, and Kevin Conroy returning to their iconic roles as the Joker, Batgirl, and Batman, many people got excited, including myself. But I was excited, I think, for a different reason than the rest. After watching films like Bad Blood and Justice League vs. Teen Titans, I was seeing the DC animated movies in a lesser light than I was before. To me, this was their shot at redemption. Taking one of the darkest Batman stories ever told and making an R-rated movie out of it seemed like it was in the right direction. Though it is a step above Bad Blood in The League vs. the Titans, it disappointed me yet again. Therefore, I decided to do a quick review instead of a full-blown 50 Thoughts reviews with the jokes and everything. This will just go over my thoughts on the movie alone, since I don't think it's that bad of a movie to get a full 50 Thoughts review. Also, keep in mind during this review that I have not read the original story, so I cannot comment on it as an adaptation. I am merely coming at this as a fan of the Batman character and as a fan of movies. So if there's anything that was changed, please let me know in the comments down below. But without further ado, let's jump into Batman the Killing Joke and just figure out what went wrong here for me. I'm going to say this now, that way people don't mistake what I'm saying over what it may come off as. This, to me, is not a bad movie. It's a mixed bag movie where it has some good moments and some flaws. One flaw that I had is what I think has been a flaw in the Batman lore ever since the idea was crafted. This being the Bruce Wayne and Barbara Gordon relationship. Now I know that some of you may think that I'm just a Dick Grayson fanboy and think that he should only be with Babs, but honestly that has nothing to do with me liking this relationship at all. Do I think Babs and Dick have great chemistry? Yes. Do I think that their relationship makes sense? Yes. But do I think that Babs and Dick should be together in his Nightwing days? Not necessarily. I know that this is sidetracking, but I think it's something that I have to address before I get into the Babs and Bruce relationship. Personally for me, when Dick leaves the Batcave to become his own hero in Nightwing, he left the Bat family behind. Therefore, it would make sense that he would start seeing people outside of the Bat family, such as Starfire. Does he still keep in touch with the Bat family? Yes. Is he still technically part of the Bat family? Yes. But when he leaves the Bat family to go from Robin to Nightwing, that is where I believe the Babs and Dick Grayson relationship should end, and the Starfire and Nightwing relationship begins. So it only makes sense that if Dick Grayson is moving on, so should Barbara Gordon. But the problem that I truly have is that she goes to Bruce Wayne. Was this in the animated series that I adored so much as a child? Yes. But like its predecessor, Batman Beyond, I do believe that it has flaws that I wish never existed. In Batman Beyond's case, Terry McGinnis being a clone of Bruce Wayne. And again, the Batman-Batgirl relationship is a big one from Batman the Animated Series. First of all, let's go with the obvious. The age gap. I believe that the age gap between these two characters just makes the relationship unbelievable, unlike Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon's relationship, where they are roughly around the same age according to Batman the Animated Series logic. It's also the reason why I believe that the Oracle and Red Robin relationship is a flaw as well. I'm looking at you, Arkham Knight. But the counter-argument is that, well, celebrities get away with this all the time. They date people who are at least a decade younger than them, and if you're Mick Jagger, 50 years younger. And let's face it, Bruce is a celebrity. In the case of Barbara Gordon being attracted to him, it's like if Emma Stone was to ask you out, 50. Of course you'd say yes, since it's Emma Stone. And to that I say, you got a point with the Emma Stone thing. I would say yes if she asked me out, but that's off topic. For me, I don't feel like Batman would give in to that. And I get it, this is how I see Batman, but I truly believe that he wouldn't attach himself to people in a romantic way of any sense. He is focused on one thing, the promise that he made to his parents the day they died. And Mask of the Phantasm proves why he doesn't get attached to anyone in that sort of way anymore. I get it, it's not canon, but it's what I use as a guideline for why Batman doesn't get into relationships. But then there's the question of the one-night stand. And Batgirl even says,
"It was just sex, for God's sake. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's not like we have to care. I don't care. You don't care. We just go back like it was. That's all."
But here's my defense. If we keep the mindset that Batman is focused on the promise to make sure that another 8-year-old boy doesn't lose his parents to a criminal like he did in Crime Alley, then he would have seen this as a distraction from getting him to that point, and would have stopped her from making the moves on him and would have just left her there. That, and throughout the history of the two characters, they've always kind of had a father-daughter relationship that I also kind of see in this film. So it makes the scene even more awkward once we get to the scene that everyone's been talking about. Personally, I think that this is a part of the film that could have been written out and could have been written in a similar fashion to how Dick Grayson left. Maybe it would have been too similar, but I think that it would have got rid of a lot of the awkwardness in those scenes and would have made more sense in my mind. Having Bruce have her best interest in mind without trying to make her yet another love interest is what I truly think this should have been. For my next point, I'd like to reiterate that I did not read the comic, so I don't know how it went down in the comic or not. But we have to talk about the implication of Barbara Gordon being raped by the Joker. I will try to keep this short because, like I said, I don't know too much about the original comic to compare it to. From my understanding, it was only implied in the comic that the Joker raped her. In this film, I think they made it a little too obvious that it happened. According to Bruce Timm, that's not what they were going for, but again, I think that they made it too obvious. Maybe it's because I knew about this going into it, or maybe I'm just looking far too into it, but I think they could have been more subtle about it. Since in my opinion, the line,
"So why do you think he hasn't been to visit?"
I don't know. Maybe he found himself another girl.
made it more clear than it really had to be. So let's move on to another thing that kind of turned me off from this movie, which were the Joker and Gordon scenes. Again, I know that some of these were in the comic, and I think that 2 of these scenes worked really well, but it was kind of strange and pulled me out of the story. For an example, the musical number during the roller coaster scene. I felt that a very well-crafted monologue could have worked better here than some sort of kind of silly song and dance number about going crazy, and I think it would have had a greater impact. And also, I know it was probably their intentions, but the carnies look creepy. But personally, I think it's more the animation style than them just being creepy carnies. And that's another thing. The animation with the past 3 DC animated films that I've watched all seemed really rushed and subpar compared to the DC animated movies that I've watched in the past. Sometimes it will look normal, but when they're at a distance, it just seems poorly done. But what sets the animation style apart from Bad Blood or League vs. Titans is that some of the up-close shots that are trying to recreate panels from the original comic book look poorly done due to the 2 styles clashing. I get that they're trying to push 3 animated films out in 1 year and there's still a 4th one on the way, but quality over quantity, please. And my final negative before I get into the positives is the ending. From my point of view, it seemed really abrupt and really left me feeling like, wait, is that it? Also, that ending joke wasn't really the ending punchline that I think they should have ended on. I felt like it would have been funnier if Batman continued laughing the way that he was in the ending, cuffed the Joker and brought him to the police car, then they keep laughing, and once he's inside of the car, he just abruptly stops. Or, if they wanted to make the ending less abrupt, they could have crossfaded the end scene with the Oracle end credit sequence with a 3 months later or something like that. And speaking about the end credit sequence, let's jump into the positives. Personally, I love the end credit sequence where they reveal that Barbara Gordon is turning into Oracle. It's a great scene showing how strong the character truly is to go from a tragic event that the movie is focused around and returning to the line of duty despite her permanent injury. Also, I feel like I'm in the minority on this one, but I like the lead up to the Joker minus the Batgirl and Batman stuff that I mentioned earlier. Personally, I thought that Paris Franz was a great foe for Batgirl and a great comparison for the relationship between the Batman and Joker. The obsession that Paris has with Batgirl was an interesting parallel, and I thought it was very well executed. It would have been easy for them to create a Joker clone for the Batgirl to encounter before they met the actual Joker, but they made him interesting and gave him his own personality, which captures a similar creepiness without being the same creepiness. This is something that Bruce Timm did really well in Batman Beyond, and I'm glad that he was able to do that again here. Even though this prologue felt like it was separate from the rest of the Killing Joke story, it was enjoyable when you remove the sexual stuff between Batman and Batgirl from it. And another group of scenes that I really enjoyed were the Joker backstory scenes. Even though the Joker enjoys his backstory to be multiple choice, as he states in the film, I thought it was a great backstory for him. It's a tragic backstory that really proves the point of just how one bad day could change someone forever. Each scene is really well executed and really interesting to watch, since we normally don't get to see a backstory for the Joker. Even though it breaks the mystery of the Joker and where he comes from, I believe that it fits the Joker very well. Another thing that I really enjoyed was the one bad day speech. Personally, I think that this is one of the best Joker monologues ever, and to hear Mark Hamill say it in his iconic Joker voice, it's just amazing. And this scene is the Under the Red Hood ending scene for this movie. It's really well crafted and is one of those scenes that will be quoted and rewatched time and time again by Batman fans. This scene is what you watch this movie for if you are a Batman fan. And finally, some quick minor things to wrap up this section. I love the design of the Batmobile since it's really similar to the Batman the Animated Series Batmobile. Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and Tara Strong do amazing jobs reprising their roles, and the soundtrack is truly amazing. Batman the Killing Joke is a flawed film with great performances and great moments. If you are a fan of Batman, I would suggest checking this out to see how they went about adapting the iconic and controversial comic. But don't go into it expecting Under the Red Hood or The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. For me, I have to give this film 3 out of 5 stars.